Hi friend, I'm Marcus here with SpeakYourMindMethod.com. So let me start off this video by putting this bold claim out there, and I can say this because this is my personal experience. So the bold claim is this: yes, it is possible to overcome stuttering and blocking. It is possible to reach incredible levels of fluency. I've done it, I know what the process looks like, and I know what it takes to reach incredibly high levels of fluency. But achieving this fluency and excellence in your speech means that you will need to ignore a lot of unhelpful advice that is out there and unhelpful viewpoints that are out there. And to give you an example of this, let me show you a comment that I got recently from a person named Emmanuel. It goes like this: "We as stutterers should advocate for open stutter and acceptance of our stutter by society rather than treating it as something bad and treating fluency as good. We are our own enemy in a sense, and what we should want is a society where it doesn't matter whether you stutter or speak fluently. Stuttering has no cure, and it is not something you overcome. It is something you are born with. You learn techniques to minimize it, not to cure or overcome it." Now, you might think this is a pretty good comment. Like, it sounds quite smart, and it seems like this is good advice that you should follow. But this is exactly the type of comment that is the most dangerous for that exact reason. Because it sounds good, it sounds right, and it sounds nice to think in this idealistic way of like, this is what society should be like. This is how the world should be. Now, I'm not trying to pick on Emmanuel here, but the reason I'm sharing this comment with you and the reason that I'm calling this bad advice is because if I had taken Emmanuel's advice 9 years ago, if I had believed what this comment says, then I would not have reached the fluency that I enjoy today. I would still stutter, my social and dating life would be much less enjoyable, and I would be in more pain. I would feel more pain than I do now. I wouldn't have reached this level of fluency that I enjoy if I had taken this advice. And that is why I'm talking about it. Again, this is precisely the type of advice that can get you in the most trouble because it sounds nice and it sounds right at first glance. Okay, but let me just pick apart a couple things in this comment that I think are very detrimental to our ability to grow as speakers and improve our lives. And again, I'm not picking on Emmanuel here, but I just want to show you a couple things about why I think he is dead wrong about a couple things here. One of the things he says here is, "We as stutterers should advocate for open stutter and acceptance of our stutter by society rather than treating it as something bad and treating fluency as good." Again, this sounds nice, right? But things that are idealistic, that sound nice, again, are often the most dangerous. And I want to hone in specifically on when he says society, basically, and I'm paraphrasing now, society should treat stuttering and fluency as equally good, as having equal value. Like there's no distinction between one versus the other, which is a pretty wild thing to say in my estimation. Because let me just give you a couple examples. So think about movie actors and actresses. Would it be good for our culture if we didn't value good actors and actresses more than bad actors and actresses? Like, of course, it's beneficial to society if the good actors and the good actresses get the roles for the movies and the TV shows that we watch. And yes, that leads to a lot of heartbreak and broken dreams and people that just aren't quite good enough and don't quite have the skills necessary even though they want to. And the world can be brutal in this way. But at the end of the day, do you really want to live in a world where we don't differentiate between a good movie actor and a bad movie actor? I'll give you another example. So think about the dating world. What would you say if I told you that confident people and timid and unconfident people should get the same results in the dating market? Like, is that the world you want to live in? Do you really want to live in a world where somebody who's confident and charismatic and charming Is it fair that the person who is very timid and unconfident and insecure, these two people, do we really want to live in a world where they get the same results? Now, maybe you disagree with me, and that's okay, but this is where we need a reality check. Because it doesn't matter what you believe about in this dating example. It doesn't matter if you believe that society should value confidence and timidity in the same way. It doesn't matter what you believe. Human nature is still going to be human nature, and people are still going to both consciously and unconsciously respond and react to you, depending on the qualities that you put forward. And if you put forward the quality of insecurity and timidity and unconfidence, then you are not going to get the same results, and that you're not going to have the same success as somebody who is confident, who is secure in themselves, who is non-defensive. So again, we as a society, as we should, we value movie actors and actresses who have a high level of skill. We value them, or we value their abilities, right? I'm not talking about the individuals in terms of their innate value, in terms of their spirit or the depths of their souls, you could say. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the qualities that we perceive in the world. So in these two examples that I just shared with you of movie actors and actresses, and then people in the dating world, it doesn't matter what your understanding, your perspective is, or your expectations is of what society is like or should be like. The reality is, when you step out and you go audition for a TV show, or you go and try to talk to people and you try to mingle and get dates, in both of those instances, it doesn't matter what you believe, people are going to respond to certain things either positively or negatively. And people are going to value certain qualities more than others. And when it comes to speech, when it comes to this ability to communicate with language, of course, our society, that like the bedrock of our culture, so much of it is language and the ability to speak and communicate. It's other things as well, but that's a big part of it. And to suggest that society is going to, at any point, value fluency and stuttering in the same way, that's ridiculous. That's not going to happen. That's only going to happen if we also don't differentiate between a good movie actor and a bad one. That's only going to happen if we don't differentiate between a confident, charismatic person and an unconfident, insecure person. Of course, some qualities are better than others. Now, let me be very clear about something in terms of what my point is here. I'm not talking about being judgmental or unfair or treating people who stutter and block in a disrespectful way. I used to stutter, and I felt that disrespect. I've had moments where I felt looked down on. People were impatient with me. People would either subtly or not so subtly tease me, and it would feel like they're being intolerant of my speech deficiencies. So I get that. But again, this is not about judging individuals. I am talking about the qualities of fluency versus disfluency. I'm talking about, okay, how should I position myself? How should we position ourselves in the world? How do we grapple with human nature? How do we grapple with the cold, harsh realities of the world we live in? And then how do we make the best of it? We need to let go of this idealism. And underneath these types of comments, very often, from at least my perspective, what I am sensing is this feeling of, I'm such a good person, right? I have it figured out. This is how the world should be. I am the type of person that is good. Society is bad, but I'm good. And we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this because this is precisely where a lot of the danger is in this type of idealistic approach or this idealistic mindset. The reality is we will always live in a non-ideal world. It's never going to be perfect. Human nature is flawed. Human nature is imperfect. And so when you put humans together, you're never going to have a perfect system or a perfect world. Now, again, let me quickly reiterate this. I'm not talking about the innate value of you as a human being. We all have incredible value. And of course, we should want a society that treats people who stutter with kindness and gentleness and patience. And guess what? That happens a lot in most cultures. In most cultures, a lot of people that you meet are going to be very nice. They're not going to try to beat you up or bully you or make fun of you. They're just like, they might not understand what's happening, so they might laugh about it later because they didn't understand it. So you can't take everything personally. But most people are already that. It's just that you forget them. You forget the majority of people who are kind and understanding, or at least try to be and nice about it. And you only remember the minority of people that are mean about it or that tease you or that make fun of you. That's also part of human nature. We focus on the negative more than the positive. But here is the big point. This is the big idea that I want you to take away from this video. And that is this. I want you to look at yourself with a little bit more humility, a little bit more honesty, and a little bit more awareness that there are areas of your life that you, often unconsciously, you treat people with the same type of disdain and impatience and meanness and unfairness that you perceive people treating you when it comes to your stuttering and blocking. You act the same way with other people. You also play a role. I also play a role with actions and with attitudes that I have towards people that perhaps as I'm going about my day, they might annoy me. People might annoy you in certain ways that they act or certain things that they say. And then your response perhaps might be impatience and all of that. And what you're doing is that you are playing a role in marginalizing a particular group of people. And you're doing it in the same way that people who are impatient with you for your speech and your stuttering, and who are even mean and who might even have bullied you, you have a lot of the same attitudes in other areas of life that you don't understand, that you don't relate with, that you don't have experience in. You're only aware of it in terms of stuttering because that's your reality. That's your experience. We could all use a little more humility here. The world doesn't revolve around you. It doesn't revolve around me. And it certainly doesn't revolve around our idealistic projections of what we try to hope or what we try to put out there as this is what society should look like and be like. Society and culture and human nature is going to value what it wants. And good luck changing that. Because if you were to actually be a part of changing that, do you know what you would have to do? You would have to change those 101 other areas of your life that are largely unconscious in which you are having a net negative impact on people. And so I'm saying all of this to try to encourage you and to remind myself to just be a little bit more humble, to be a little bit more honest, to yes, we always want to strive for improvements in culture and society. But there's a difference between striving for improvements in society and having a worldview or a projection that is completely idealistic, that if it was actually implemented, the entire experience of what we value overall would disintegrate. Because again, if we don't differentiate between the qualities of verbal excellence, of articulateness, if we don't distinguish between that and disfluency and stuttering, and we as a culture say that it doesn't matter, it's all the same, then that means that the values of skills and the values of excellence in all the other fields, why shouldn't those also be the same? At some point, we need to come to grips with the reality of the world we live in, that it's not going to be as fair as we want it to be. And so basically, in closing, you have two options. You have two paths that you can take. You can take one or the other. The first path you can take is you can hope and pray that you will get the opportunities that you want in your career and in your life despite your speech deficiencies and disfluencies. Or number two, this second path is you can understand that society, work culture, dating culture, etc., will inevitably place a high value on speech fluency and excellence, on articulateness. And therefore, if you take this path, you choose to take control of your own destiny. When you take this path, you choose to become the best speaker you can be. Sure, you might not be 100% fluent. I'm not 100% fluent either. But as I always say, the value is my speech doesn't hinder me anymore. In fact, my speech helps amplify my life. It helps me achieve what I want. Not only is it not in the way anymore, it helps me reach my goals now. And that's what I want for you. So those are your two options. You can either settle, you can hope and pray that society is going to change, and good luck with that. Or you can just be a little bit more humble and honest with yourself and say, look, I don't have to be perfect and I don't have to be completely fluent, but this is what the world values. Society values fluency, and it doesn't matter if it's career, if it's dating, fluency has a high value. And so therefore, I'm going to put myself in position to become the most fluent speaker I can be. And that's an exciting life. That is an exciting life to live when you are pursuing excellence. This is what I chose. And I'm so grateful that I chose this second path. Because as I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, the reason this comment from Emmanuel is so dangerous is because if I had believed this, I wouldn't be speaking to you today about how fluent I am or about how much my life has changed. I wouldn't be able to say these things because I would have settled and I would have just hoped and prayed that society changes its standards for me, which is a pretty narcissistic attitude to have, right? When you really think about it. And so, my friend, be very careful with advice that you see on the internet. People will try to infect you with their flawed assumptions, with their flawed logic, with their idealistic viewpoints. And then underneath all of that usually is a lot of resentment. It's a lot of insecurity. It's a lot of bitterness. And so we need to watch out for this. We need to beware of bad advice and bad viewpoints that are unhelpful in our lives. And instead, what I did and what I recommend for you is to get a plan for improvement. Put yourself through a plan. Start working on yourself. Start working on your speech and commit to it. It's going to take time. This is not a short-term quick fix. But when you commit to becoming the best version of yourself, to becoming the best speaker you can be, then the possibilities are limitless. You can go be whatever you want to become in life. You can become the best version of you. And that is what I am here to help you with. So before you leave today, if you found this video helpful and you want to dive deeper into my method, into everything that I teach here at Speak Your Mind Method, and if you want to get a plan and a system in place to achieving this fluency that I've been talking about, then what you can do is go watch my free Stop Stuttering workshop. I'll leave a link in the description below this video. This is a 45+ minute video training that walks you through the ins and outs of overcoming a stutter, what it looks like, what the process is, how to actually do it. But not just that. I give you a plan, a routine to follow, a daily system. This is what most people don't have. This is what most people lack, is that plan and that ability to just show up and they know exactly what they need to do to take that next step to improve their speech. Okay, so again, I'll leave a link in the description below. It's my free Stop Stuttering workshop, so be sure to check that out before you leave this video. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you agreed with me or disagreed with me, both of those are completely okay, and I would love to hear your thoughts in a comment below. So let's keep the conversation going. If you have any thoughts or questions or comments, then be sure to leave those in a comment below. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.